And actually, I have a whole separate copywriting formula that I didn't invent because of this, but then I looked at it one day and I was like, la, 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 alarms going off. My formula is PISA: problem, agitate, invalidate, solve, ask, or action, ask for action. If they're unaware, you speak to the problem. If they're problem aware, you agitate the experience so they have to look for a solution. So they feel the need to look for a solution. If they're solution aware or like looking for solutions, right? You have to invalidate other solutions. If they are you aware, then you have to like present your solution as what they need to do. And then if they're deal ready, you have to ask them for action, right? And so we go through this and we take them through that. So with that as the model of what like the world's best copywriters, the world's best marketers do is capture people when they are maybe starting to experience symptoms of a problem, but don't even necessarily have a name for it. And then identify the problem, the agitation, why you would look for a solution, the invalidity of other solutions, define the ideal solution and the buying criteria for it, and then ask somebody for action.
All right, so welcome to today's VidTao podcast. We got Roy Furr on the call. So Roy is an incredible direct response marketer and top mind when it comes to all sorts of direct response knowledge and application. But wanted to share with you right now, you can get a free 7-day trial to VidTao, which right now we got over 8 million YouTube ads and landing pages. And we also have this cool affiliate view where you can check out the top affiliate ads. So you can discover different ads from ClickBank, Digistore, Buy Goods, GiddyUp, Square Dance, Warrior Plus, JVZoo. And we're adding more networks all the time. You can break down by different countries and all that. So that's obviously the affiliate side. And then on our standard side, you can pretty much check out anything. So let's say you want to look at rankings here just to find some new stuff. So let's look at health. Who's the top health ads? You can see there, et cetera, et cetera. So you get the 30-day breakdown right there. Anyways, go ahead and check it out. Get your free 7-day trial of VidTao. And without further ado, let's get into today's podcast.
Everyone, please welcome to the show, Mr. Roy Furr. And Roy's got a really interesting background. So he got started working as a miserable customer service call center rep before he discovered direct response marketing. And it seemed like once that happened, the magic really sparked. And soon Roy was doing some amazing things in the direct response space, growing a bunch of businesses with direct response marketing, and quickly rose to be one of the who's who of direct response marketers, helping people like Dan Kennedy, Brian Kurtz, some of the real like who's who of blue chip direct response heavy hitters. So Roy is someone who I've always looked up to. He's a thought leader and really a specialist in, among many things, the work of Eugene Schwartz. So breakthrough advertising author, among other works. And Roy, correct me here, breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com is a domain that you own, correct?
Yeah, I've been publishing there since 2014, every workday, basically.
Which is unbelievable. Yeah. So there's just a massive backlog of cool stuff, cool education that Roy releases related to direct response. And today we're going to be diving into a bunch of stuff, but just super excited to have you on the show, Roy. So thank you.
I'm so glad to be here, Ian. Like it's a pleasure to be able to speak with you. Yeah, and Eugene Schwartz, breakthrough advertising. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna really get into direct response, of course, like you go back and Jay Abraham and David Ogilvy said you have to read Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, which I completely agree with. But then you take it to the next level when you read Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz.
So would you say that, okay, let's just dive right in. So people who are just getting started in direct response and other people who maybe have let their skills atrophy, let's say, don't want to name any names, but like revisiting the classics, are those the two? What would you start with scientific advertising and then transition into breakthrough advertising? I would recommend that.
Oh yeah. Well, so I'm always a fan of scientific advertising because one of the things for me is like breaking things down to the principles level, like the underlying rules. And scientific advertising, if you just read that, Not My Life in Advertising, which they're often published together, is it's just a short course in the principles of effective marketing. I often say it was written 100 years ago and it's still the best book on internet marketing. But then breakthrough advertising gets into just So scientific advertising is like the principles, the rules of how direct response works, measuring advertising, testing advertising. Breakthrough advertising really gets into the subjective side, like what is going on in the head of our prospects, our consumers, our customers, and how do we connect with them and speak to them in a way that's just like that just connects with them with the right message at the right time in order to convert them. Right?
Got it. Got it. Very cool. And I think so um whenever people talk about breakthrough advertising, the first thing that a lot of people bring up is, oh wow, an amazing book, and we're hit over the head with so much brilliance in the first few chapters that a lot of times we don't even go deeper than that. And so everyone always talks about the prospect state of awareness. So I know that's the first sort of major framework that a lot of people talk about. Can you go into detail on that?
Okay, yes. I want to give you a couple models, but first, so that's actually chapter 2, and chapter 1 starts with this incredible quote. He says, let's get right down to the heart of the matter. The power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work comes from the market itself and not from the copy. Copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is the copywriter's task, not to create this mass desire, but to channel and direct it. So if that is like, I mean, that's the first paragraph and you've already gotten your money's worth, even though like this book does kind of cost a fortune compared to what you expect a book to cost, because Brian Kurtz has republished it. Eugene Schwartz's widow actually still gets a segment of every sale. But like coming out of the gate swinging, right? But then the question is how, right? There's okay, we can't create a desire. We have to meet a market where the desire exists. And like if you're not thinking, we'll get to this awareness in just a second, but if you're not really thinking about it, the automatic thing that like a novice marketer tends to do is say, okay, well, customers like sales, so let's run a sale on our product, right? Let's run a sale on our product. We'll give people a coupon and they'll buy, right? But here's the thing: the people that will buy are such a tiny sliver of the market because they have not already been convinced that your product is the best. They've not already been convinced that they need your product or a product like it in the first place. They've not already been convinced. The biggest segment of the market hasn't even been convinced that they need a solution to the problem. So that gets us to the market awareness model. And like, you could write this down. Yeah. So Keith Krantz actually has a really good acronym that I always use when I'm teaching this, and it's UPSYD, UPSYD. And U stands for unaware, P stands for problem aware, S stands for solution aware, Y stands for you aware, and D stands for deal ready. Okay, so if someone is completely unaware of the problem that your product solves, even if they may have symptoms of the problem, they're not going to respond to a sale for like, I don't know, the latest thing in like the affiliate world seems to be these like skin tag medicines or whatever, skin tag salve. So if you have a skin tag salve for 50% off, people are not going to respond to that just because you put it on sale, right? They need to know, oh, this thing, God, we're getting into like gross medical stuff, like right out of the gates.
Right.
They need to know, like, oh, that thing on your skin is it's called a skin tag, right? Like, do you have these things on your skin? Right? We're speaking to the unaware, and they see this picture and they're like, oh yeah, like I have that. Okay, so suddenly they become problem aware. Okay, I have this thing on my skin. It's an unnatural growth. Okay, so what's the solution? Well, the automatic assumption of a lot of people when they have some kind of medical condition is, oh, I'm going to have to go to the doctor. I'm going to have to get it checked out. Maybe there's something in the pharmacy. Maybe there's over the counter. Maybe there's a natural cure, right? And so they're going through all the potential solutions in their head, and they might start to look at potential solutions in the marketplace. And then they find your particular solution, right? And so then they're like, okay, this is interesting. And you have to at that point convince them, here's why our solution is better than all the alternatives, better than ignoring it, better than doing nothing, better than mixing herbs in your kitchen and doing it yourself, better than going to the doctor, better. Like you have to say, like, here's why ours is superior. And then they become deal ready. And so you might say, well, and right now we have two for the price of one. And so you're going to get a free bottle with every one you purchase for ongoing treatment of this so that you can make sure that it's gone. Right. And so we've gone from unaware to problem aware to solution aware to you aware to deal ready. And actually, I have a whole separate copywriting formula that I didn't invent because of this, but then I looked at it one day and I was like, la 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 la, alarms going off. That my formula is PISA: problem, agitate, invalidate, solve, ask, or action. Ask for action. And so if they're unaware, and I have a whole video on YouTube about this, about market awareness. If they're unaware, you speak to the problem. If they're problem aware, you agitate the experience so they have to look for a solution. So they feel the need to look for a solution. If they're solution aware or like looking for solutions, right? You have to invalidate other solutions. If they are you aware, then you have to like present your solution as what they need to do, right? And then if they're deal ready, you have to ask them for action, right?
Mhm.
And so we go through this, and we take them through that. And so with that as the model of what like the world's best copywriters, the world's best marketers do is capture people when they are maybe starting to experience symptoms of a problem, but don't even necessarily have a name for it, and then identify the problem, the agitation, why you would look for a solution, the invalidity of other solutions, define the ideal solution and the buying criteria for it, and then ask somebody for action. That's what a really good copywriter does. And I know that so many in your audience are YouTube advertisers, so you have to think about this. Like top of funnel, you're really helping people self-diagnose, right? Or recognize that they have a problem, right? That's in need of a solution. Middle of funnel, you might help them do like comparison shop between what the ideal solutions, like here's all the other solutions that other people have tried that haven't worked as well as this, right? And then bottom of funnel, you say, here's what you need to do or here's why you need to respond today, right? And so there's going to be different approaches based on those different levels of awareness. And at the risk of spending the entire time in this episode talking about that, like really that's the core message there is you need to take people from wherever they're at, whatever level of awareness, all the way through that awareness spectrum up to the point where they're ready to purchase.
Mm. Got it. Makes sense. And I mean, do you see just when you're evaluating ads that you see out in the wild, so to speak, using this framework? I mean, do people who are, let's say, deal ready, do they typically need to be, in some ways, they need to have touchstones on each of the other stages within a sales letter, within an ad, to kind of reignite the whole emotion around buying? I mean, how do you see the best
Yeah.
ads playing out?
So to some degree, like if someone is deal ready, you can almost just, the simpler the proposition, you can almost just put a deal in front of them, right? So if I'm like deal ready to go buy paper towel, right? Because that's a really simple proposition. I see, okay, this is soft paper towel and strong paper towel, and this is soft and strong paper towel. This one looks like the better deal, right? And I don't need all the like awareness of the need to clean up messes in the house or anything like that. But the more complex propositions, you do actually need to touch on that, right? So somebody may be in your market, um, and they may even know who you are, and they may even know a little bit about what you do. I mean, just because so many people in this audience would be familiar with it, let's say you're running like a YouTube ads agency, right? So they may already know, okay, I need leads, clients, sales, and profits, right? I need leads, clients, sales, and profits. I know that there's a whole bunch of people that watch YouTube all day, or, my customers are going on YouTube from time to time. They're looking things up on YouTube. Google's sending them to YouTube when they type things in, right? So I know my customers are there. I don't quite understand how to get customers off of YouTube. And so there is going to be some level of recognition. Like, if I'm speaking to someone like that, hey, your customers are on YouTube. You just don't know how to connect with them and actually bring them in so they take action and buy your products or services, buy your offers, right? And so I've basically taken them through at least unaware, problem aware, solution aware, problem agitate, invalidate. Like, I'm invalidating that they don't know yet. Like, I haven't gone into some deep comparison like I might with a thousands of word video sales letter, right? Of like, oh, you've tried this thing, you've tried that thing, whatever. Once upon a time, I sold a backup solar generator that was in like this EMP resistant case. And I had to go through invalidation of like gas generators, invalidation of solar generators that weren't in an EMP resistant case, invalidation of like inferior battery capacity, like all of these things. And I went through and we sold well over $1 million worth of these things. So there you go, super deep. But in some cases, especially if you're just talking, one of the questions that you have to ask yourself is like, what's the purpose of this particular piece of copy? And so if I'm trying to drive people to a, let's say, video sales letter, the purpose of that copy that's driving them to it is just to get the click, right? And it's to get them nodding their heads like, oh yeah, I have those symptoms, I have that problem, right? I want to like know more about a solution. Okay, I'll click to learn more. Like, that's all we're really doing. But then the video sales letter itself may need to reinforce, okay, yeah, here's the problem. You recognize this problem. Here's why it's so important to solve it right away, right? Here's invalid solutions, all of that stuff, right? So it kind of depends on what the individual piece of copy needs to do. And when you think in terms of the different steps of the sale, it's like if you're doing a 2-call close, you don't want your triage person trying to close the sale, right? You want your triage person doing triage, and you want your closer to close. And you don't want the marketing necessarily to close if the main job is to book a call with triage.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. So that's such an easy thing to forget. Like, what's the purpose of this particular piece of advertising specifically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a VSL launch today as we're recording this, and they sent out some emails that I didn't write, and I was writing some ads for it. And it's like, all that I wanted to do was use the hook in the VSL to get someone, like I pulled the hook out, the idea of the hook, and I just wanted to get someone's interest just enough so that they would be like, I need to know the answer to this, right? Like, play up that curiosity so they have to dive into the VSL to learn more.
Absolutely. That's such a great analogy for, since we're coming from a YouTube background right now. Just those short form videos going to a longer form video sales letter or sales letter can't sell it all in 2-3 minutes, right? So just staging it out.
I mean, the job of the first 5 minutes is to get them to, or first 5 seconds is to get them to stick around. And then, ideally within 30 seconds, you have them deciding, I want to click, right? Because that's kind of the time length on YouTube.
Yeah. So what are some other frameworks within breakthrough advertising? Obviously, you walk through the way that you have encapsulated it. You talked about Keith Grant's encapsulation as well, which are super helpful, really, just those sort of iterations. But we're still just scratching the surface, right? What are some other goodies?
So I've often conflated what it's chapter 2 and chapter 3, the prospect awareness and the market sophistication. I like, even in preparing for this, I'm like, I read those as one chapter and they're really not, right? And so I was thinking about this, like, how do you break down market sophistication, and like, how is it related or different, and how does that influence the creation of marketing? And like, markets are constantly changing, and So a recent like super big market that we've seen go through all of these different changes, go through a lot of different changes. And I've done a lot of work with like people in the financial ROI related investments, that sort of thing. So there was Bitcoin, right? Oh, or then crypto, right? And there was this like early adopter, like the market was in this early adopter phase, and then it was in this like next big thing phase, and then it was in this like, oh my god, it's going to the moon phase, and then it was in this like crashing, but it's probably not crashing forever phase, so it's an opportunity to get in, and then it's in another like, oh, it's going to the moon even bigger this time, and it's like gone through all of these. So the thing about especially the financial market is that there's this like amplification of uh and speeding up of all the market changes versus almost everything else. Like sometimes I'm jealous of people who write for markets that just don't change. um they do, but they change a lot slower. So markets are constantly changing, and what's happening inside those markets is like the first to market really just has to say like, I have this new thing that solves the problem, right? Like, oh, we're suddenly discovering this problem or this unfulfilled desire, and I have this first thing that does it, right? And then you go a little bit further, and you always have to be in relation to the last big offer in the marketplace. So I have this thing that like does this, that solves the problem, turns into my thing solves the problem faster, easier, cheaper, and so you like amplify the benefits. And then the next one may be my thing solves the problem even when other attempts have not worked, and so you're like overcoming objections. My thing solves the problem without whatever inconvenience, right? And pretty soon, and I think this is one thing that's sped up in pretty much every market on the internet. When you get good marketers involved, these changes all happen very fast, right? So you get one marketer into a market, and they say like, they launch the first product, and then there's the next, and there's the next, and there's the next, and this can be like a cycle of a couple weeks. I mean, honestly, like it's very fast. And then you quickly get to a point where markets are essentially like oversaturated, and prospects are jaded. They've tried everything. They don't believe any of the promises anymore. They've been over promised and under delivered 1,000 times, right? And so when we're thinking about this concept called market sophistication, like he broke it down into um, five periods of time in the market, 5 phases. But I think if you just understand one thing about it, it's that you always have to be one step beyond what came before you in the market. And so if you're constantly looking at, okay, what's working in the market, and you're just trying to copy it, it's a way to like build a moderately successful marketing operation, right? But if you're just trying to copy it, you're always going to be like second best or fifth best or whatever, right? Versus coming up with something that is different or new or better. How is yours different, new, better? Like what if you acknowledge that your core audience within a market has a certain level of sophistication and understanding of the solutions that exist, and there we go back to like the invalidation of other solutions, right? They have a certain understanding. They've tried a bunch of different solutions, weight loss being one where it's like just perpetual. And there's these cycles that take place. And most diets, like the diet that's going to be popular next year, is a rebranding of something that was popular long enough ago that people have already forgotten about it. And it's about like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because people have tried all the other solutions and not gotten the result that they wanted yet. And that's the big thing to understand with market sophistication.
Got it. Can you walk through, let's say, okay, let's think about a real concrete example so people can really just grok this, so to speak. So weight loss, like keto, how could we think about these stages of market sophistication when it comes to, let's say, keto?
Okay. So keto is something that like I have chosen to stand back from that market a
Okay.
little bit. But it's fine. I have a decent amount of awareness of it. So in the
Mm,
beginning, it was just like it was actually something that was being launched in relation to everything that had come before it. So um, keto is very focused on like meat, right? It's very focused on eating pretty much only protein. Um, and so it says like the first launch of a keto is like your problem is that you eat anything other than meat. The solution is this with a bunch of like proof that this works, right? Like before and after pictures,
right.
right? And it can be as simple as that because the market's not very sophisticated about keto yet. And so really you're differentiating keto versus everything else that they've already done. And because it's such a different diet choice, the decision there is pretty easy. Like it's pretty easy to recognize the difference, right?
Right. Right.
But then the question becomes like, okay, why would I choose? Suddenly there's like two or three keto options on the marketplace. Why would I choose one over the other? Right. And so it's how do we make your keto diet feel as much as possible like a normal diet? Like, so what have been the objections to people implementing it? What have been the challenges as people have tried to transition to a keto diet?
Mhm.
And so if you ask people, and this is like a Ryan Levesque single most important question deep dive survey, like, you know, what's been your single biggest challenge so far in trying keto? And you may realize that, okay, it's great for a main course for dinner, but I don't know what to do for snacks, right? And so your keto offer could be the 24/7 keto lifestyle planner, including access to a database of snack food recipes, breakfast recipes, lunch recipes, and the dinner recipes that you already love. Um, and so suddenly there's this whole level of sophistication that's created in the offer that instead of it just being like, hey, eat meat, lose weight, it's we will help you implement this, right? And then you start to deal with people who may have tried it and people who maybe even had access to a database like this and didn't necessarily do it. So you might end up with like a keto meal box solution, right?
Mhm.
So we actually provide pre-made snacks. We provide pre-made meal kits. We provide pre-made. And so basically what you're doing is like every objection every roadblock that the market runs into is an opportunity for somebody to create a product that simplifies the path to results. Um, and the more sophisticated the market is, the more likely it is that like they've run through and they've hit all the roadblocks, right? So you have to figure out what the next roadblock is, the next roadblock. Does that make sense? Does that
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I just wanted to contextualize it so that people could start to think about their next steps in their offers and how they present their offers in these terms. It's
yeah.
incredibly helpful. So, okay, so I know again we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
So can we talk about mechanism?
Yes. Okay. Um, so so Eugene Schwartz, he started to talk about, okay, a prospect may not, they don't necessarily want to go through all of the thinking that you go through to make your product better, right? And so I love actually telling a version of like the inventor story. And I always think back, like I loved that sales letter, the backup solar power, because um the guy who ran the company basically invented this out of his own interest, right? He wasn't the electrician, he worked with an electrician, but he's like, I would like a backup solar generator. Okay, what are the options for it? And originally he put it like in this portable case so he could take it camping. And so a portable case is nice. Okay, what if we had a portable case with wheels? Okay, um what if we put it actually inside a Faraday cage because one reason that you might need backup power is if there's an electromagnetic pulse, and like that can come from the sun, it can come from like human created things. Ocean's 11 had a great thing where they shut down the casino with a big EMP like gun in the back of a van. It can come from nuclear explosions up in the atmosphere, and so this guy invented it, and he just basically looked at like, what's the next problem that I want to solve to make this product better, right? And eventually he got to this like rolling cart with a battery built in and all the pieces built in and a place to shove the solar panel. And it was all inside this metal container. So it was EMP resistant, like a pretty strong EMP resistance built in this case. And you could roll it. You could take it camping. It was like army green, like all of these. He had like a camo net that came with it and everything, right?
Nice.
And his whole idea was to make this a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better than what was tried before, right? And with each thing, he was able to identify, like the one that really made it take off, and it was already successful before this, but the one that really made it take off was having it inside this EMP resistant case. And so a lot of people in that survival niche are very worried about big events like that, where somebody could shut down the whole power grid with an EMP. And so to have it inside the EMP resistant case, it was this unique component of the offer that made it a superior solution to everything else that was available in the marketplace. So you could come up with like, the comparison charts on like software websites and like, oh, these have this and this and this and this, but ours has this and this and this. And so that EMP resistant case was like that one thing that pushed it over the edge. And what Schwartz talked about was you want to find that one component of your product that pushes it over the edge. Like if every other product in the marketplace meets 95% of the buying criteria, but yours has that extra 5%, what is in that 5%, right? And actually, if you go all the way back to Claude Hopkins, I think the story was in Scientific Advertising. It's been retold so many times, but it's the Schlitz beer story.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Love that one.
Yeah. So Schlitz beer was like the number 5 beer in Milwaukee at the time, and all of these beers from around the world were saying, we have pure beer, we have pure beer, we have pure beer, and they were saying like that was the big promise, right? Well, what Hopkins actually did is he toured the brewery and he had the brewmaster talk him through all of the different steps that they went through to brew the beer. And he's sitting there completely fascinated because like brewing beer, like, and I have brewing stuff, like I've brewed my own beer. It is a complex process, and like there's certain important decisions that you have to make. And if you're doing it on a commercial scale, it's even more important, right? And so he's asking this whole story, and he says, "How come you haven't told people this, right?" And the brewmaster and the people from Schlitz said, "Well, it's because this is how everybody makes pure beer." And he said, "Well, nobody knows that." So in that case, it didn't even have to be like a different solution than everybody else was providing. He was the first person who actually taught the market this, right? Taught the market like this is what it takes to make pure beer, and Schlitz makes it this way. And Schlitz actually became the number 1 beer in America for a very long time, starting with those ads that told that story. Now the cool thing that's been added recently, and I don't know, like I think of Stefan Georgi as the person who I've heard this from. I'm sure it was circulating before him. But it's not just the mechanism of the solution, but it's the mechanism of the problem. And I've called it something a little bit different when I've taught it sometimes because I think it's maybe more instructive. It's giving your prospect a new understanding of a persistent problem. So you haven't solved your skin tags issue. You haven't lost the weight that you've intended to lose. You haven't cracked YouTube advertising yet and made your ROAS positive. You haven't done whatever. Well, you show them the mechanism of the problem itself. You give them a new understanding of this persistent problem that they continue to face. Well, immediately that elevates you above everybody else who has just offered to solve the problem. right? And then your mechanism of your solution ends up being tied to that, right? So, if our YouTube ads thing is I don't know, I'm not a media buyer. I understand media buying at a higher level, but if it's like a certain understanding of the Google targeting algorithm based on what's available today, and I'm able to teach you like the reason that your YouTube ads suck is because you're still trying to target the way that everybody else is targeted, and we have this proprietary process for identifying your ideal targeting inside the Google ecosystem and then scaling that on YouTube. Well, me teaching you that that's the reason that you haven't solved the problem yet predisposes that somebody's interested. I like slid in the mechanism of the solution there, that we have this proprietary framework for targeting on YouTube on the Google ecosystem, and we use that to scale your goodness.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you define that, and then the whole telling the untold story with the Schlitz beer ad is like, there's so many, we get so focused on our own little space, we forget that a lot of the things that we take for granted are almost magical to people who might not be as familiar with what it is that we do. So I think that's always a great example. Like, what's the old untold story here that we could illustrate to really capture that?
One of them that I like doing, and I use Pisa as at least a framework to start the thinking on so many different places. One of the places that I think that a lot of people don't think about their own untold story is like, where was I at that I discovered this solution that I'm now trying to sell? So, for example, this like, old story that I was doing a copy review for a client, and the product was like in the real estate investment niche, and it's all about like bridge funding for real estate deals, which is sometimes in order to make a deal go through when there's multiple parties and more than two parties involved, one of the parties doesn't really need money and there's no long-term commitment of money, but they may need to have some money available for like 7 days, right? And so this whole product was about the bridge funding. And I'm having a conversation with this guy. I'm like, your message here is great, but you come across as this guy that's like, has always had it all figured out, all of that, like you've known it forever. But I'm sure that's not true. I am sure if we go back in your history, and I laid out basically the story for him, I'm sure that you ran into a situation where you were ambitious to get a deal done. And you ran into this problem that you couldn't make the deal happen and you could not make the money because you didn't have access to whatever capital you needed just for enough time to make that deal finalized, right? And so it was incredibly frustrating because you felt like you couldn't get anywhere in real estate because you didn't have access to that money. And you looked around and traditional lending options weren't an option, and maybe people in the family weren't an option, and like all the other sources. But then you had something happen where somebody offered you a bridge loan like this, right? And you were able to close the deal and you were able to collect your first check. And I just went through the Pisa framework, if you go back and analyze it, right? And he's like, yeah. Like I said that with no detail, right? Except for like this high level, like I understand how this process works, right? I said that with no detail and not knowing his story. He said, yes, like almost exactly.
Wow.
And they took that and they turned it into the section in that particular VSL where they had introduced like, oh, the opportunity. And he's like, I didn't always have access to hundreds of millions of dollars of capital that I could share with people for this type of loan. In fact, my very first deal, and then it was like, oh my goodness, I'm suddenly connected with this guy, and it's the untold story.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. And we got a few different other. I kind of want to. I know I almost want to step on the gas and get to the other stuff, but I feel like we're doing a disservice to. We could, like you said, we could spend 3 hours just talking about state of awareness, you know,
Okay, so
but yeah,
this is here's a really cool thing. If you study Eugene Schwartz, you learn that his company, like he worked for a lot of clients, right? And was successful with a lot of clients, but his company's name was Instant Improvement. Instant Improvement. Think about this from like a positioning perspective, right? If you want to, and it was like you're buying published books from this company, Instant Improvement Inc. or whatever, right? And so you're filling out, because for him it was always space ads in print media, right? You're filling out the reply card in a magazine, and it's to Instant Improvement. And if you study, like if you go through his like I just opened up to an ad in the back of the book, right? And this particular one is I'll make you a mental wizard in one evening. Think about that. Like I literally just stuck my hand in the book to where I thought there might be ads towards the back. And a headline is relevant to this idea, instant improvement. So how can you look at your offer? And actually, I have a couple examples of this recently. This VSL that just launched today talks about a 60-second search that anybody can do. And it's a way to identify sellable deals in the real estate market. Okay, suddenly 60 seconds, like that's fast, right? Like, oh, that's super interesting. Well, I got the idea from, funnily enough, I got the idea from a Chris Haddad dating promo. And he said, and his was like a 4-word phrase that you never want to say to, like, women, here's a 4-word phrase you never want to say to your man if you ever want him to look at you in a loving way again, or whatever it was, right? But that thing sold like crazy. Like I understand it was like 700 sales a day for a while. And it was this 4-word phrase, like this instant idea that you could capture. And then I was talking to Kim Schwalm, another great copywriter. She does most of her stuff in health. And she had done this analysis of a promo that she got in the mail. And I said, this really reminds me of like, I did this 60-second thing. Like she was saying this particular supplement promo needed a thing. And then she showed me one of her big controls that's running right now is like a 7-second morning ritual that gets you whatever result, right? Because that's how long it takes to take the pill, right? And so find the opportunity. Like I know that you can't like hire a YouTube ad agency and wake up rich, take a pill, wake up healthy,
right.
Say 4 words and get the love of your life, right? Or a 60-second search and like suddenly get rich from real estate, right? But it's this idea of like a super fast win. And what is that super fast win that you can give someone that they're going to want to go deeper? Right? And so when you think about your offers, oftentimes that is a great place to find a hook or support for your hook. That, in my case, I actually found the entire hook around the 60-second search, right?
Right.
Or the 7-second thing is kind of a support for a hook, right? But it's very effective. You see it all over the place in supplement ads when you start looking for it.
Absolutely. I think I remember Chris Haddad talking about the 4-word thing, and I don't think he actually had it in his PSL. He said he had like people. Yeah, is that right?
Well, so that's one of the tricks of doing something like that is if you're going to capture curiosity in that way, and like Chris is a master of it, like he is the master of curiosity in his promos. If you're going to capture attention in that way, that curiosity has to be sustained until after the purchase is made, right? Like, and so if it's a 4-word thing, like you can talk about all the context around it, but you can't give away that 4 words in the promo or boom, they're out of there, right? They're gone. They don't buy. But that 4 words, that promise of the 4 words with all of the other context around it can carry them through to making the purchase. And they're like opening up the thing. In my case, it was like the 60-second search. And I identified, and I hope this promo does really well because otherwise it's a ridiculous thing to be talking on a podcast about. But you never know. If you're a good direct marketer, you never know. But I identified it's a 60-second search that you can do on any zip code in America. Okay, cool. 60-second search you can do on any zip code in America. And it tells you like there's a, what do I want to say? Continuing the idea of like not giving it away. The main thing that I give away about that is it helps you identify zip codes that are full of sellable deals. You can say like, there's a ton of zip codes in America, and there could be a ton of real estate transactions going on in all of them, right? But only certain ones are great sellable deal. Only certain zip codes are full of sellable deals for this opportunity, right? And our process shows you, once you've found the zip code full of sellable deals, our process shows you how to get in those deals and turn them into cash in your pocket, or a check in the mail, or a deposit. And so you can't give it away. I say, go to this video inside the course and you'll see the demonstration, and you'll see how in 60 seconds they identify this, right? And I had to prove the power of, but I did not have to explain the process of the 60-second search.
Got it. So
Yeah.
you're just continuing to build curiosity. You're not
Yes.
doing the full reveal. There's not that dopamine hit until after they buy. Yeah.
And it is hard to do that. Like, you're not going to get ChatGPT to do this year. This is what copywriters learn for the first decade of being a copywriter. Like, oftentimes, like, there's this process of learning, and you write a bunch of much more direct promos, things that make a lot more recognizable and interpretable, I hope that's a word, promises. But that whole curiosity thing, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to write, but hopefully what I've done is given you at least some guidelines that help you pull it off. Because when you do write it and you write it well, you can make hundreds of sales a day, like Chris did in the relationship niche.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so crazy. Like, if you went deep on just one of these frameworks or one of these approaches, I mean, really the sky's the limit, let alone adding everything together, right? So
Yeah.
it's I think, Roy, I want to respect your time here, and I think it'd be amazing to have a follow-up call where we maybe go into more detail on some of the more esoteric Eugene Schwartz approaches. But I wanted to also mention, this is something, like, it's clear how much enthusiasm you have for really diving in and unlocking the the conversion elements that make good marketing tick. And I know that right now you're doing some fractional CMO stuff where you're really applying all this deep thought and a lot of the application that you've had with everything from these crazy EMP protected solar generators, Dan Kennedy stuff, the OG of OGs in marketing, in direct response marketing, Brian Kurtz, the man behind the $1 billion list broker,
Yeah.
all these folks. So I know that you're starting to work in a more focused way with a select number of outside clients as well. So I just wanted to talk really quickly about that.
Yeah, so I've spent most of my career, like, being kind of a technician and being involved with the copywriting, putting together VSL scripts, all that stuff. And that is great. And I've also recognized that I have the biggest impact with my clients when I step back and take, like, a strategic and leadership role. And when I help them identify, like, okay, what are we doing in terms of traffic? Are we taking care of everything that we need to take care of? Do we have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, right? Are we maximizing our success from different traffic sources? What are we doing in terms of conversion? How have we structured our conversion sequences? What's the customer journey like? All of that. The economics, like with that solar generator, I had a 5-minute conversation with the guy before I even wrote a word of copy for that product. And I was sitting there with Google saying, this doesn't seem like the right price. Is this the right price? And we started to compare. We raised the price. We doubled his margin over cost of goods sold. And he made $500,000 from that 5-minute conversation just from testing the price.
Wow.
And so, like, recognizing opportunities like that, it's something that it ends up being few and far between when you're writing copy for clients. And so I'm stepping back and looking to help businesses develop their teams, develop their strategy, and to scale and grow with the same type of marketing. It's just, I'm not the one writing the copy. I've trained copywriters that work for Agora, like, gone off and become, superstars in their own right. And now I'm doing that as in a leadership role in companies. And that's what the fractional CMO thing is. And it's working with multiple clients at a time. Specifically, I'm looking at high ticket coaching course, mastermind, and event businesses who want to generate more leads, clients, sales, and profits, right? And if folks want to learn more and have a quick intro call with me, no obligation, no pressure, anything like that. If it's a fit, it's a fit. If it's not, it's not. They can go to royfurr.com.
Yeah, and I think that just from our conversations, just having that initial conversation could unlock a tremendous amount of value. So highly recommend people go chat with Roy. And also, where can people sign up for your daily emails? They're really good.
Yeah, those are at breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com. Actually, let me give you a better link here. Of course, if you just listen to that and you just want to type in breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com, that's fine. I can't give away copies of Breakthrough Advertising. It's Brian Kurtz. But Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins is in the public domain. And I, for my own purposes, recorded an audiobook of Scientific Advertising so that I could listen to it over and over again, knowing folks like David Ogilvy said you shouldn't be involved with marketing or advertising unless you've read it 7 times. Jay Abraham read it 25 times. The greats say, read this. So at freescientificadvertising.com, you can download my audiobook version and a PDF, and you can have a copy of that, and that puts you on the daily list. freescientificadvertising.com.
freescientificadvertising.com. Yeah, you got me wanting to reread that book. It's unbelievable. I remember I used to pester Craig Clemens at Golden Hippo. Hey, what book should I read? That was the first book he recommended to me and the other beginning copywriters there. And yeah, I remember being pretty blown away. And yeah, I haven't read it 7 times though, so I need to get on that. And that's an easy way to do it. Listen to Roy reading it.
With Scientific Advertising, you have to wade through a little bit of older language, but again, like the principles that it teaches are still the best, still make it the best book on internet marketing. With this, you have to wade through a little bit more like heady stuff, right? But it's still like, I don't think he could have like packed so much in so little if it weren't for what he did.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And well, Roy, it's been awesome chatting with you. And
you too.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable amount of knowledge on all this stuff. And I love how you've been able to apply it in all these different verticals. So that's unbelievable. So really recommend people chat with Roy when you get a chance. And hopefully we can have another chat soon and just get into more of the nitty gritty and all this stuff. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we have some good notes on what we can cover next time. I look forward to it.
Thanks so much, Roy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for checking out the show today. Remember that you can claim your 7-day free access to VidTao.com, our app with over 7 million unlisted YouTube ads, landing pages, and funnels. Just go to VidTao.com to start that free trial. This podcast is also sponsored by Inceply.com. Inceply is a direct response video advertising agency, and it's generated over $950 million in direct response revenue for Inceply's clients via video platforms like YouTube, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Meta, and more. They're experts in both producing high-performing direct response video creatives and also scaling the ad accounts themselves, so expert media buyers, and very important, custom deep data analysis to make sure your tracking and attribution is 100% rock solid and tailored to your unique business and funnels. So if you're already spending at least $1,000 per day on ads and looking to take your results to the next level on platforms like YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Connected TV, and more, go ahead and claim a free brainstorm session with the Inceply team. Just go to inceply.com/VidTao. That's INCEPTLY.com/VidTao and claim a free brainstorm session. And just so you know, this is not a sales call. On this brainstorm session, the Inceply team will work with you to uncover insights you and your team can use to unlock new opportunities and scale on video traffic platforms. Just go to inceply.com/VidTao to claim your spot. All right. Thanks so much for checking out our show and being part of our community. Once again, this has been VidTao co-founder Ian Naj signing off. Have a great rest of your day, wherever you are in the world, and take care.